Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Cheers podcast that isn't. Dave and Tookie are both here. Listen, I don't want to lie to you guys. Both of you, beautiful viewers that we have, there are weeks that I can't wait to watch, and where I can't wait to break it down and talk about it and just take copious notes. And then there's this week. There are weeks. Look, Cheers owes us nothing. So many episodes, so many great episodes. There are episodes that sometimes you just got to get through. Today, we're doing the work. It's the second end of a doubleheader in April. It's cold, it's rainy, and damn it, you just have to do your job. And that's where we are this week.
This is a Frank Castillo episode.
Yeah, we've called someone up from AAA. We're like, look, there's no bullpen. Whatever happens is happening to you, okay? Yeah. Yeah, that's where we're at with Season 3, Episode 15, King of the Hill. Sam Creepy Quotient off the effing charts.
Mm-hmm.
Just one of those episodes where you're like, it feels like they took leftovers from the fridge and made a casserole that didn't quite work together. I don't like anybody in this episode, especially. Am I the only one feeling this way, or was this universal? I should not be pooping upon the episode. Maybe one of you loves it, and you're wrong. So let's hear. Okay, good.
I was dragging my heels for the rewatch, and I did find actually there was stuff I liked more on the second watch.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Like, nobody's likable because this whole episode is structured around two characters that, in I think the most interesting part of the episode, both reveal that they have the exact same problem, and we see the funny or enjoyable side of that problem every week. And this week was like, oh, this is kind of the seamy underbelly of the fact that Sam and Diane are incredibly competitive with one another.
Yeah. It's very weird for them to take this problem out that is essentially like the dynamic of the show and acknowledge it and also say, we're not doing anything about this. Like, no one wants to get better. We're never dealing with this again. We're never addressing it.
Does lack of growth in a character does that count as an 80s moment?
I mean, that's just a sitcom moment.
Okay.
When sitcom characters grow, the show ends. I mean, it's why, like, for 10 years, Everybody Loves Raymond could endure. You're like, look, no couple would stay married this long if you fought this much and if you look down upon your partner this dramatically. But you just kind of accept that problem is there and you move on. But that's why, now I was not an Everybody Loves Raymond fan, but they don't really have an episode where they're like, hey, this marriage isn't healthy and I don't know if this is going to last. It's like, no, you can't have that level of self-awareness or it doesn't work anymore.
I know. The most interesting part of this episode is when both Sam and Diane like acknowledge the fact that they are extremely competitive, and that's the reason why their relationship failed. But but then like, how do you continue? They can't change.
Which is why, and we talk about how much, especially the first season, like we like the development that's there and that there's depth to the characters and it's not always funny. But at the same time, in an episode like this, you're kind of going, when you get to this point and you're not going to do anything about it, I felt weird as a viewer. Where it's like, this is our central character flaw, and clearly we should fix this, and maybe we could even work together if we did fix this. And instead, we're just going to stay unhealthy. Like, to like acknowledge it, especially with the ending the way that they did, where she does that and he's spanking her off camera. It's all just like, what the hell are we doing in this episode? Who thought this was a good idea?
I mean, also to pick a team of Playboy playmates as the comeback vehicle for Sam's like athletic competitive juices to start flowing, it was just weird and
it was really
confusing.
weird.
A dude wrote this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really weird. All right, we're going to delve into this in a little bit. Dave, what was going on when Cheers disappointed us?
Well, this premiered on January 24th, 1985. Funnily enough, they took the previous week was a rerun, and NBC reran Boys in the Bar from season one.
Oh.
One of the more sort of like fascinating episodes, where if you remember back, where Sam's teammate writes an autobiography and comes out of the closet as part of that, which was controversial and a difficult choice for NBC at the time. And I think it seemed like now, like with Cheers kind of becoming this ratings juggernaut, they felt more empowered to re-air that episode. So that re-aired on the 17th. Then on the 24th, this episode aired. What was happening in California on the 24th, friends and noted famous people, Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, mailed out the cassettes with the guide vocals for We Are the World to the assembled participants who are going to meet to record this epic in 4 days on the 28th in Los Angeles. Reading about We Are the World, I didn't realize We Are the World came as such a direct response to Do They Know It's Christmas? Like, it's like within weeks that decision was made. Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson wrote the song, and it was, that song was released in December, and We Are the World is going to come out, I think, in February. So it's like an immediate response, from as like an American response to the British single. But I also just find it fascinating, the idea of like Michael Jackson holed up in a room with Lionel Richie working together. I think of Michael Jackson, among other things, as such a solitary individual. I find it kind of
solitary a little more.
Yeah, perhaps. But it's wild to picture him and Lionel Richie just like sawing away in a room together on this track. And somewhere out there, there are cassettes with just Lionel and Michael singing every part, and they were mailed out with like these very strict instructions to all the artists to not let this fall into anybody else's hands, lest the news of this leak out. So I've never heard, I don't know if any of these are still out there, but man, I would like to hear "We Are the World" sung just by those two gentlemen.
That would be, man, if that showed up on Pawn Stars, I would bid. Whew.
That's got to be that's a cassette that you. I'm putting a cassette player in the car for that purpose.
I feel like who from the We Are the World video would be most likely to have to auction that off at some point soon?
Cyndi Lauper. I mean, wait.
Cindy's got a career. Cindy deserves better.
She's doing Simba Court. No, is it Simba Court? She's doing eczema commercials.
She is. All right. Yeah, it might be Cindy. I don't know.
Who was the blonde
it's funny
woman?
How personally I defend Cyndi Lauper. I acknowledge it's weird, but I just remember when it was like Madonna or Cindy, who's going to be bigger, and then that got answered. But I feel like Cindy got like grief.
Yeah.
And people are like, Cyndi Lauper, she's this is it. And it's as a songwriter and as a singer, she's crazy great. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's not thought of at that much. Like Time After Time is kind of a perfect song. Like it's a great, great piece of songwriting. And if you listen to her sing I Drove All Night, oh my God.
So that's a great song. I love that song.
Even though I know that's not her song, but just her voice on that song is incredible.
There's another Cyndi Lauper song I like from her first
True Colors?
No.
From the first album?
Yeah. It's like Through the Night. It's like supposed
Through the Night.
Through the Night.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a lullaby.
Yep.
Beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I like that song.
Yeah. And I can say all of that while still acknowledging you're probably correct, Tookie. And if one goes up on the block, it is most likely Ms. Lauper's copy.
I can see Kim Carnes putting it up there. Likewise, I could see Waylon Jennings' family putting it up there. just because I feel like maybe I bet Waylon Jennings didn't feel entirely well utilized. In reading about,
He was on that.
yeah, that's what I said.
Exactly.
In reading about We Are the World, there was some discussion about whether a background vocal, which ended up getting scrapped and or changed entirely, that chorus part where they all say "One world, our children," kind of in the background. That was originally kind of like a nonsense syllable, and then Stevie Wonder introduced the idea of like maybe we should be singing something in Swahili, and apparently that's when Waylon Jennings walked out to take some sort of smoke break. So I'm guessing Waylon doesn't view the experience perhaps as positively as other people.
If folks are wondering how we really feel about this episode, this has been an extended Waylon Jennings detour.
You know,
Before we
speaking
get
of
to the cold open,
speaking of Stevie Wonder,
always speak of Steve.
Please.
you know, oh, hold on, there's construction in my building, per usual. You know, I had been asked to partake in a conspiracy theory show of some sort, and
Oh, this is not the Stevie Wonder can see thing, is it?
it's not that he can. It's not just that he can see. It's that he's been systematically murdering every favorite black celebrity and playing at their funerals.
Oh God. This is how we get QAnon, Tookie.
Listen,
I'll take any sponsor at this point.
Michael, Aretha, Kobe, Stevie's the killer.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, how could Aretha have ever died? She was so young and took such great care of herself. Clearly, foul play had to be at work.
It's just a theory. Just
I will say another thing I discovered in the We Are the World research was that Stevie Wonder greeted all the musicians by saying that if they didn't get their parts done in one take, he and Ray Charles were going to, quote, drive them home that night.
Oh. All right. See, the theory holds up. Systematically murdering celebrities,
You might be
Stevie
onto
Wonder,
something.
then
one
playing
of the
at their
most consistently
funerals.
funny singers ever.
What's up?
Like Stevie Wonder, one of the most consistently funny musicians ever. Whenever he talks, it's hysterical.
Stevie goes on Mount Rushmore for every reason.
Yes. Yeah. Songs in the Key of Life, high up there as the Desert Island album. If you're just on the island with one album.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Tookie, this cold open, what can you tell us?
Oh boy. So we we open on Coach at the bar, and Sam busts in through the door, and he says, and we see a whole pile of boxes at the front of the bar, and Sam is like, "Oh well, Coach, oh, I, oh boy, come on, Coach. I hope this isn't what I think it is." Well, what do you think it is? I think it's something some salesman talked you into buying. And Coach replies, "Boy, you're good at thinking." The billiard buddy pool table adapter. And Coach tries to reassure Sam, "Oh, but it's not useless, Sam. You can turn it into a ping pong table, a knock hockey table, a salad bar." And Sam asks, "Oh, okay, well, how much?" And Coach says, "Oh, I don't know, a buck, a buck and a half with croutons." And, "No, I mean for the whole thing." And Coach says, $600. And Sam naturally balks at the price because that's more than rent money in that day. $600, but the salesman said satisfaction guaranteed. Or, and Coach says, "Nah, that would have been a good question." And Sam says, $600. And Coach says, "Yeah, hard to believe, isn't it?" Cut to credits.
I had a lot of feelings about this cold open. One is it made me sad because I feel like you can see the editing around Nick Colasanto trying to get through scenes at this point. I know Ted Danson has talked about how during season 3 he was really struggling and they were having to put his lines up where he could read them in different spots. So yeah, this cold open, you can just see them jump cutting and yeah, like having the music play over what was probably supposed to be another line and they couldn't quite get through it. So that was tough. I still enjoyed Coach here. And he could still pull it off with just his charm. But yeah. Also, there's a 50% surcharge for croutons. That was something that occurred to me. Buck and a half with croutons. But croutons are the best part of the salad, so I probably would pay 50% more for the croutons if croutons didn't kill me, which they now do. So those are my cold open thoughts there. All right. Let's get into this. We're going to get through it.
Mike refuses to shift out a second today.
Look, we're in low. We got to get down the mountain without hurting anybody, and that's what we're going to do. Okay. There's sort of a B story with Norm stopping by with his mother-in-law, just sitting in his Honda Civic. That's just there, and there's a couple of jokes there. And my early, so one of my contenders for 80s moment of the week is just mother-in-law jokes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that had a nice 40-year run that kind of ended in the 90s. That wasn't really a thing anymore. But the 80s were sort of the last death, like gasp of mother-in-law jokes. And then, everyone needed their mother-in-law to take care of their kids when no one could afford to stay home with the kids anymore. And mother-in-law stopped being quite as funny. And yeah, they became a little bit more important. And we started saying, let's not make fun of the mother-in-laws anymore.
My mother-in-law is cool as hell. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was, that was a thing that just was there for jokes, and then the car gets towed and there's no payoff and we never find out anything about it. And she wants to go sightseeing in Boston and they don't know where to go, and there's Florida jokes in there for no particular reason. Also the last death gasp of Cliff doing his Florida stuff where they're like, can we get some more material out of this Florida trip? And this is the episode where hopefully they realized they could not.
That was, it says a lot about this episode that little segment was my joke of the week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
You get it where you can get it in a week like this. Wherever there's water, you don't test it for purity. All right. The A story, for lack of a better phrase. The A story is this gentleman who comes in to say, hey, looking for Sam Malone. There's a charity softball game going on. Sam would never take part in that, which is also kind of an odd dynamic because why wouldn't he? Does he really ever say like, I would never do that? Which is sort of a silly thing. And they're shocked to find out that he's going to pitch for charity. And I'm kind of like, what's a charity? Why are you guys so like offended by the idea of Sam doing this nice thing for charity? Because it's beyond like, I'm surprised he's doing this. It's like, Sam would never do that. It's a charitable cause. I don't understand the weirdness of it. They're all shocked. He's been practicing with Carla, and they come in, and David Paymer makes an appearance. Hooray! Future Oscar nominee David Paymer with a little appearance. And this is not his only Cheers episode, is it?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, he appears again. And as I burp.
Who? Which guy was he?
He was
David Paymer? He's the photographer.
Oh, the guy in the tan blazer.
Yep.
Okay.
He is the photographer. We find out that the reason Sam is going to be pitching in this game is because he's going to be pitching against a team of Playboy Playmates, which was a huge thing also in the 80s. And that makes sense. And and he's being very, very Sam. Just talking about the girls and and then he's teasing Diane with showing off the ladies and saying, maybe I should introduce them to the charity I was involved with last year, which is very mean, but admittedly a pretty well written line. And just in terms of dissing your ex, it's not bad. It's a good diss track. Cut to right after the game. Everyone's coming in, celebrating Sam's achievement, but feeling a little weird about the fact that he struck out 18 Playboy playmates. Which, okay, just from a functional point of view, this is a softball game, right?
I would assume so.
Sam was a baseball pitcher. I'm not saying it's, wow, now Sam can dunk a basketball. I get that you're still throwing a ball, but it's a very different motion. Like, would Sam be this dominant in a charity softball game? Like, could you even strike out all 18?
Or are they actually playing baseball? In which case, this seems like a terrible mismatch.
Right. Who does a charity baseball game with playmates, though? It's always softball.
Either way, it seems it seems a little ridiculous if Sam's proud of striking people out as a softball pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. Although later on, during the Rebecca years, he will become the ringer for the corporate softball team. So that does come up later on. So I don't know. This might be a question for the audience. Does this translate well enough to softball that this is a reasonable thing? And I guess, look, even if you're just mediocre, you could probably strike out 18 playmates. So maybe I'm looking at this incorrectly.
Oh, no, don't underestimate them. Don't underestimate the playmates.
All right, then. I stand by my previous statement.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It all felt weird.
Yeah.
It all felt weird. And then so everyone starts to acknowledge that, hey, this didn't feel totally right. It's not cool. You shouldn't have done it. Sam gets mad, goes off into the back room. Diane starts uncomfortably breaking Sam down psychologically, getting very quickly to, I think this is why you drank, which felt very stark at the time that she brings it up. And even to the point where, look, he's competitive and you can maybe allude to it, but it's not like somehow, and this is why you're about to kill a man. It's like, look, the game's over. I don't know that you need to tear Sam apart emotionally like this. You could help him gently get there.
I forgave that purely because I thought, and this was maybe direction I thought was really good. The way the camera framed Sam totally shitting on Norm and everybody, and challenging them to get in the box with him, and really kind of made him look like a total asshole. And the way he was totally kind of lording it over these guys that of course, who are supposed to be his friends, and followed Diane, kind of similar to last episode, seeing her take that in and realizing that she is kind of equipped to deal with this in some way. Perhaps more than anybody else in the bar. I forgave that moment and that subsequent interaction. I agree. It went there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Speaking of the camera framing, I feel like this is the first episode in a while where we've had real cinematic choices.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because the opening shot, the first scene is of the Hancock and the Boston skyline, and then at the end of the episode we have the progression of the night as Sam and Diane are playing, and it gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until closing time. Everybody's out. It's like, wow, cinematic choices. The time.
It was nice to see.
Yeah,
it was nice to see.
Yeah,
there was some interesting stuff.
Yeah. They have this weird breakdown. They both accuse each other of being extremely competitive. Sam talks about not being able to please his father, which seems like a big deal. Diane wants to jump in with a story about not getting invited to prom. They both handle it very badly, really uncomfortably, which leads to a game of ping pong that apparently lasts for 7 hours. Closes the bar. Funny moment as they're showing the progression of time, where there's just an aside with Norm and Cliff being the last people in the bar going, since that time, Norm, I've never feared death, which I just really enjoyed. I don't know why.
I want to know.
I thought that was a well-written line.
That was in contention for my joke of the week. I went back and watched it 3 times. I couldn't decipher exactly what Ratzenberger was saying. I looked up the transcript and got it. Finally, like saw it and laughed out loud. It's such a weird thing, but I genuinely enjoyed that like little peek into like Cliff's soul, and I understand that it's hard to sort of like perhaps get a laugh on that line as you're sort of like jump cutting time, but I really like that moment.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened to Cliff. Like what, what, what made Cliff so emboldened at this point? What
Alligator
put the
attack in
battery in
Florida.
his back?
Yeah, I don't know. And so then Diane tricks Sam into like losing the ping pong game, saying, "Let's turn our paddles into plowshares, and we'll leave the." And so Sam acknowledges it, says, "Yeah, I feel pretty good." Starts to walk out, and she cheats to get the final point, and then he spanks her with the paddle. It's just terrible. Like it's very weird. It makes me not like Diane. It makes me not like Sam. It makes me very unhappy. And roll credits. So there you go. I'm just unhappy. I'm unhappy. That's where I'm at. I don't like how anybody handled anything. And it was... I know.
Oh no, the dog agrees.
May's least favorite episode since the spy came in from the cold.
Oh.
All right. Do we want to break it down some categories, and then we'll talk about our feelings about the episode in general?
Sure.
So, 80s thing. Dave and I will go, and then Tookie will do 12. So I had a couple of thoughts about this, but I think my 80s thing is it being difficult to find nudity. I think where it's like, oh yeah, you have to go to the magazine and you have to tell this man like that's the magazine I want because I want to see that lady naked. Like the idea that used to be like, all right, and otherwise there's maybe one person in my life that I get to see naked. It's like, no, it's amazing to me. And the 80s was the last time. The 90s we started to get the internet and it all changed. So to me, that was the most 80s moment.
I had a lot of thoughts about Playboy, but I specifically thought this isn't really an 80s moment, but it's like my 80s moment. I was when Sam referenced the Playboy Mansion. I remembered that I have been in a Playboy mansion, a Playboy club.
Oh, okay.
In Buffalo, New York. We went up there for my cousin's graduation from college, and for some reason we ended up having to stay an extra day. I don't know if a flight got canceled or something, but we had to scramble for accommodations. We got something, I guess, kind of near the airport, and I guess there used to be a Playboy Club, which was like the only place we could sort of like apparently eat that night. And I remember like it feeling very uncomfortable. I remember my dad like having to like take me on like a sort of like PG version of the talk, like where we just like walked and like explained like what it was and like why it wouldn't be weird, but it was totally weird. And anyway, I've eaten in a Playboy club in Buffalo, which now that I say that out loud is maybe the weirdest thing. That's like if you're gonna go end up at a Playboy club, like ending up in Buffalo seems like, is that actually even a Playboy club? Like maybe that
it might be the most important Playboy club, Dave.
Perhaps. Anyway, yeah. For a minute I was 11 again and feeling uncomfortable looking at the side of somebody's leg.
Oh boy.
Tookie, your 80s moments.
Okay. Knock hockey. Don't they mean air hockey? What is knock hockey?
Knock hockey is different, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, knock hockey doesn't have any. There's no propellant underneath. It's just like a wooden puck with plastic handles, if I remember right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Salad for $1. I mean, we're far more conscious of salmonella these days, because if salad is $1 in 2021, something's wrong with that salad. And also, sweet green exists. No salad will ever be $1 ever again in the United States of America. The existence of Playmates, because they've they sort of went obsolete. I hate to say that about human beings, but Playmates sort of just weren't a thing anymore. But I think they're trying to bring them back, but to suit the digital age. But but Playboy Playmates being a prominent element of the episode, and Cliff in particular, but just in general, knowing facts about Playmates, felt very 80s.
Playboy. Would it be weird to have a Playboy like detour for a moment here? It is
Okay.
amazing the way like Playboy is such a fascinating thing in our cultural history. Where on the one hand, it was decried and perhaps rightly so as completely objectifying women, and oh, this is terrible, and you just go there to like ogle, while at the same time being this place that some of the most learned minds of our time did some of their most in-depth and best interviews. Like the number of fascinating people who said the most interesting things they ever said in an interview, in a Playboy interview, is kind of crazy. Like there was a lot of really fascinating stuff in an issue of Playboy, which is the go-to joke forever was I just read it for the articles, but there were amazing articles in there. Like there was really amazing stuff. One of John Lennon's, as Get Back is being a big cultural touchstone right now. Like John Lennon's maybe best interview was his Playboy interview, where he really talked about his feelings about Paul and the Beatles and the breakup and the world, and like admitted to a lot of really like bad character stuff. Yeah, it's in there. Reading his Playboy interview is really kind of intense and fascinating. So Playboy is just the weirdest little like time capsule
Huh.
from this country. Yeah.
It's also one of the few institutions I feel like I can't think of anything else that has sort of traveled this path that has gone from being and like not changing particularly over this period, but going from something that was groundbreaking and controversial to, in the space of 50 years, being absolutely quaint and almost like demure in a way when compared with the accessibility of nudity today. It's a really interesting. You can always sort of view it as a barometer of the time it's in based on how people are responding to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember our friend Sam, like his mom got him his first Playboy because there was a John Cleese interview in it. And she said, "Look, I feel weird about getting you this, but I know like he was just one of those guys who loved Monty Python, like loved it, when it was becoming available on MTV when we were young, and it was like, he just knew every episode, and she just knew that an interview with John Cleese in Playboy would be amazing, and it was. And she's like, "Look, here it is." I mean, he wasn't 12; he was like 17.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't insane. He was in high school, but it was like, all right, here you go. I think you're going to want to read this, and I think it's going to be very interesting for you.
That's a wow, what a liberal mom.
Yeah, Vermont.
Okay, okay. All right, yeah, no, that explains it. That I'm like, I don't know about a Puritan Massachusetts mom, but Vermont, yeah, no, that tracks.
Yeah. All right. Did you have more 80s things to
I did. Okay, so the Playmate outfits, especially those shorts, super 80s.
Very 80s shorts, agreed.
Yes. Calling a buxom woman Babette. That feels very 80s. And the concept of something that drove you to drink. Because at least in the 80s as a trope, it seemed to always been like one thing that was a catalyst to someone's alcoholism versus like it being a series of things, and also the fact that it's like a disease, So the one thing that drove Sam to drink, that Diane pointed out, I feel like that's a very 80s trope. Yeah.
Well put. All right. Your joke of the week. So we've thrown a couple of them out there. Tookie, you already said yours. What did you say was your joke of the week?
Joke of the week was Cliff going on and on about bloviating,
Yes.
if you will, saying, "Oh well, Florida is a pollution-free state. You know how they treat solid waste?" And Carla says, "Well, you said they treated you very well."
Yeah.
A vibe
That
more
wasn't
than
a
a
bad
joke,
line.
but
Yeah. Dave, what was your joke of the week?
I'm going to give a runner-up to the interaction between the complete 4-line interaction, which I'm not going to read, but it was delightful between Lenny and Coach. That culminated in Lenny saying, "The stories about you are true, huh?"
Yeah.
Coach says, "Yeah, they are," it was just great. But the joke that actually made me laugh, like in spite of myself, because it was a mean joke, but I can't deny that I laughed out loud, was as Sam is trying to get Diane to play ping pong, and he's calling her a chicken, and she says, Sam or she's saying, I've played ping pong, and then she says, "My father built me an elaborate rec room when I was a child. My daddy liked me." In response to Sam's story about the toast, the way she said it absolutely cut me at the knees, and it was like you could just see the dark heart of Diane Chambers, and I loved it.
Ooh, quick question. In this day and age, do we say ping pong anymore? Because I feel like everybody defaults to table tennis now, because it's
I
like,
say ping pong.
yeah.
I ping pong, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I'm just trying to think of like how the term. I don't know. I don't know if it's just like one of those, oh, I saw it on Reddit, so it must be true kind of things, where people are saying the origins of the name ping pong might be rooted in anti-Asian sentiment. Who knows? But
Yeah,
I hear more people say table tennis than ping pong, so I'm just like, I wonder if that's also an '80s moment qualifier.
All right. This is news to me.
Yeah,
We'll
but
look this up.
it's probably not even a thing. But I'm probably overthinking it. But that's just something that came to mind super briefly. And I'm like, I wonder.
My 80s joke, or my joke of the week, is a look. When Sam and Diane are talking, and Sam is saying, "If I got a C, they said, why didn't you get a B? If I got a B, why didn't you get an A?" And Diane says, "And if you got an A?" And Sam gives her a look like, "What? I didn't get an A. What?"
It's great.
It was a great look. Really great look. Really wonderful moment from Ted Danson. Just totally understanding who Sam was, and Sam understanding who Sam was. Very well done. All right. Tookie, how white was this week's episode?
Whiter than most, but we had some moments. In the cold open, there was a black man next to a woman at the back of the bar, another black man in a gray shirt next to a black woman. Scene after that, there was a black man by the door who, when Norm enters, and then another black man in gray by the piano, a black man in a navy sweater joins him, and then the scene after that, it was super duper quick. Like you had to kind of slow-mo it. But there was a very quick pan of a black woman in a white blouse at a table. And then in the final scene before, we get to the end of the night, there was a black man by the phone. But you may have noted 2 people of color in this episode with lines. One being Lenny Barnes and the other being one of the playmates.
Ola Ray, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 this episode. Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Double
bad.
digits.
Not bad.
And consecutive weeks for actors of color to have lines.
Yes.
So, I mean, it only took 3 years.
It's happening. It's happening.
All right. Shall we delve into the Sam creepy quotient for the week?
Oy vey.
It's up there. There's objectifying the playmates. There's the charity I was involved with last year. There's spanking Diane with the paddle. There's a lot going on in this week's episode.
He's wrestling with his demons this week.
Yeah.
It's real bad.
It's real bad. It's tough to even put a number on this week.
I know. What's shocking is if he had slept with one or more playmates, it would be lower.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, just like it was just weird, just from the objectification right down to like treating them badly in the game and taunting them. The
He
way
hit one.
I know
He hit one in the ear.
the way he deals with Diane the whole episode, it's just a rough Sam week.
Yeah, the his number for me this week, 162. It's just yeah.
I won't disagree with that.
Yeah, all facets on display, including being an asshole to like Norm and Cliff.
For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I know. And I was also looking at that going, anyway, it's a hit off me. They get the bar. Any takers? I mean, you don't have to put anything up. Why wouldn't you at least swing at the ball?
Yeah, take a shot, Larry Harple.
Right? Who's Larry Harple?
He's the guy who talks to Coach about converting the table back to a pool table.
Okay.
He's an occasional customer. He's my favorite out of the everybody who isn't Paul.
Ah.
Gotcha. Yeah, at least he's not the super thick Boston accent guy in the tracksuit.
No.
That guy.
Yeah, he's not Whitey Bulger who hasn't killed anyone.
No, he's not Alan Koss.
Oh, Alan. Alan.
I can't remember my dad's birthday, but I remember the names of all these guys.
Well, this is important.
I want to be better on my Bulger trivia. You know, it's because because some of his associates had like the most fun mobster names.
Yeah, Steve the Rifleman Flemmy.
The Rifleman. I'm thinking, what was it? I don't know why I thought I couldn't remember Rifleman. I'm thinking Meat Hands the whole time. Steve Meat Hands. I don't.
Steve Meat Hands.
Have you ever read Black Mass?
No.
It's a good read.
I know I need to.
If you're interested in that at all, it's a good read.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also very disappointing read.
How so?
Just in terms of like the city and what was completely like known and allowed to occur. It was really bad. Yeah. I mean, the corrupt FBI agent who is now on house arrest because he's going to die soon, supposedly. But yeah, and just the fact that like so many people enabled all that crime, and the asshole in one of the newspapers who just kind of kept defending Whitey Bulger, saying, "Yeah, he's not that bad. What are you gonna do? It happens." And he's like, he was mad because he doesn't want drugs in Southie. That's why he had to commit some violence. It's like, of course, he was one of the biggest drug runners in Boston.
Didn't want drugs in Southie.
Oh yeah, that was part of the narrative. Was he was a good, like old school gangster. It's like, yeah, you can run numbers with him, and he's involved in some illegal stuff, but he doesn't want any drugs in his town.
Wasn't Southie back in the day nothing but food stamps and cocaine?
Yes, which is another interesting breakdown. There's a interesting book called All Souls that
I've heard of that book.
Yeah. That's a very different look at Southie from the time of like, I think the 70s and 80s. And just about how it's very interesting read, especially in current days, about the power of like whiteness over poverty. In the idea of, one of the galvanizing principles of Southie at the time was, well, at least, things are tough, but we're not the poor souls over in Dorchester or Roxbury, and we got to keep them out, and the busing. And like not even acknowledging that Boston had the highest concentration of white poor in the country. It's not Alabama. It wasn't Mississippi. It wasn't anywhere like that. It wasn't, the Dakotas. It was South Boston. And just how much public assistance there was, the massive amounts of crime that were going on, violence and drugs, and somehow it was not talked about in the same way because it was a white neighborhood.
Yeah, Southie in this day and age, a lot less food stamps, still a lot of cocaine.
Yep. Like the Boston comedy scene. Anyway.
Bazing!
Anyway. All right. Any final thoughts about this week's episode?
Glad it's over.
I only knew this because of IMDb. Did you catch that the cameraman, when he's taking the publicity shots in the first act, is played by Martin Ferrero, who plays the lawyer in Jurassic Park, who gets eaten by the T-Rex?
Ooh.
No. Good poll.
It's uncredited, but it's definitely this isn't a star laden episode. 2 Playboy Playmates, 1 Oscar nominee. Martin Ferrero featured in one of the biggest movies of all time. Like, just again, this episode is multifaceted and interesting, but I don't want to watch it.
So were 2 of the Playmates actual Playmates?
Yeah. Hang on, I have them called up. Ola Ray, the only Playmate, woman of color.
I've heard of Ola Ray. I think. Oh my god, I've totally heard of Ola Ray.
Oh, she also played Michael Jackson's girlfriend in Thriller.
That's who it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
hey, love her.
I'm like, I know that name. That's why Thriller.
Yep. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. All kinds of interesting spider webs out from this morass of an episode. And Ginger, Heidi Sorensen, was also a frequent Playmate.
Wait a minute, you can only be Playmate once, right?
Or you know what? She was a Playmate. She was Playmate of the Year once, and then she did she did recurring pictorials.
Okay, so like a Pamela Anderson sort of type, where she was a Playmate, and then she was Playmate of the Year, and then she just keep going back into the magazine.
Yeah, Playmate Emeritus, I guess is what it's called.
Nice. Like at some point, you're on the tenure track.
Yeah, the other Playmates write glowing recommendations of your work.
Good Lord. Could you imagine the Playboy Mansion being more of a meritocracy than academia?
There's probably a fair argument that it is.
Okay.
It's like, look, you sold this many issues. I don't care what else is going on. You did it. Your numbers are your numbers.
Look, I'm on 10 years of adjuncting. I would gladly take my shirt off if I thought it was gonna get me a couple extra slots.
All right, so we found Dave's limit.
Everyone has a price. I'm not judging.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
All right, on the happy note of everyone has a price, do we have anything to plug this weekend?
Somerville Night Live at the Rockwell this Saturday at 9 p.m. So before bedtime of the other 3-letter acronym show that's on a Saturday. That's
very nice.
Live.
Very good.
I will be in the Empire Review, which is on December 18th. We're going to have a small live audience here in Providence, maxed and vaxxed. So if you want to come to that, check out our socials, Empire Review. We'll also be streaming the show live for free, so you can catch it there as well.
Very nice. I have nothing. There. I had something and it is gone. So I'm comfortable with it. This is my life now. And that's it. We are coming up on one of what I remember being my favorite episodes, so I'm very excited about that. I hope it lives up to my memory. Teacher's Pet is next week, and
you talked about
I'm
this one
excited
a lot.
about it. Yeah,
You mentioned this one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
it's
excited.
It's one of the only ones you can sing through.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming. All right. On that interested look from Tookie Kavanaugh, I'm Mike. That's Dave. We're going to be back next week. Cheers to you all. See you soon.